All right, great. So my name's Dave. I am the CEO of Thought Exchange, and you automatically have work to do. This is Elmer Fudd. Can everyone please put Elmer Fudd up? It's also a secret technique to make sure you're off your smartphones. This is Bugs Bunny. All right? Everyone please put Elmer Fudd.
It's a gun, right?
This is Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. Raise them high. All right? So what we know is that what happens is that Bugs Bunny is being chased by Elmer Fudd. Elmer Fudd is chasing Bugs Bunny. And then what happens inevitably is somehow, some way, Bugs Bunny gets that gun in his hands, and Elmer Fudd ends up with some rabbit ears in some sort of store that he ran through, right? So what happens, they go like this, and then boom, they change. And all of a sudden, Elmer Fudd's running away from Bugs Bunny. All right? What I want you to do is do that. You got Elmer Fudd chasing Bugs Bunny, and now you just have Bugs Bunny chasing Elmer Fudd. Bugs Bunny chasing Elmer Fudd chasing Bugs Bunny. Now, Elmer Fudd does not have a kickstand. All right, Bugs Bunny does not have a third ear or a weird tail. Everyone try one more time. Bugs Bunny chases Elmer Fudd. Elmer Fudd chases Bugs Bunny. Come on now. All right, we're going to come back to this today, but it's an important thing. So there's actually kind of three types of people. There's three types of people in the room right now. There's one type. No, sir, I will not put up Elmer Fudd, nor Bugs Bunny. There is a second type of person. I tried it. That was uncomfortable. I will not try it again. Okay, I forced him to do it again. All right, I will try it a second time. Okay, I saw a slight improvement. I get the exercise. I'm still not going to do it again. That's group two. Group three is like, ooh, I'm gonna get this. And they're doing it under the table right now. And they're going to come up to me in the hallway later, and they're going to be like, hey, Dave, check it out. What's actually happening, though, right now what's happening in your brains as you're doing this? Anyone want to venture a guess? What's happening? Confusion. Well, kind of, yeah. But what's happening as you're doing this? This is something, I mean, if I said put OK on both hands, they'd have no problem. OK and a peace sign, you could do that too. Why can't you do this right now? Muscle memory, yeah, muscle memory. It's right brain, it's sort of like that. So it's neural pathways, right? The neurons actually are existing in there to be able to do that. They just don't fire all that well that way. But for me, I yammer on stage a lot, and I do this, and so the neural pathways are super strong in order to do that, right? So what's happened is that I just have super strengthened neural pathways that I am able to do that. And I want to make an assertion is that as organizational leaders, what you're really trying to do is actually trying to get people to adopt new behaviors and new ideas, and this is what it feels like to people. First of all, try this new thing. No, sir, I will not. Is one group of people. There's another group of people that says, all right, I will try it one time. I get it, but I'm not going to do it again. And there's another group that's like, sure, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to practice silently. But that's now what you're dealing with as you're trying to manage change. You're dealing with all these different group of resistors, some people that will jump on board, you can point to and say, you guys are super successful, and other people that just don't want to do it at all. But I actually want to talk about the mechanism for this. We're going to talk about Bugs Bunny. And we're going to talk about the clues, the ways that people are actually heading on to try to achieve this. So right now, I'm going to make a fairly big assertion that this change that we're talking about, it requires two ingredients. It requires listening and it requires empathy. So when you're trying to get somebody to accept a new idea, what you're really trying to do is get them to actually listen and empathize with the point of view of why this would be better for them. And they actually have to integrate that a little bit into their own thinking, but it hurts at first. It doesn't matter if something's better. The first time you use a new technology always sucks because it's just new in your brain. But what you're trying to do is actually create some listening, some empathy to try to drive something, and we have some mechanisms and tools for doing that. But I also want you to think deeply about the tools and things that you do. So how do we do this? How are you doing this right now? There's a lot of different ways, but I want to put it into kind of one big category. You ask people questions, and they have all sorts of ways of doing that. You ask them questions because you want their feedback. You want to hear from them. You want to listen to them, and you want to be able to hear and ask questions for what is it that we're trying to improve, how are we going to do that, what do you need, what can I give you, what are your strengths, what are the barriers, all that sort of stuff. All right, so one way we do this is polls and surveys. Right? Not bad. It's something. I remember actually the first time you could do a survey online, it was mind-bending. I could set it up for free. It kind of blew my mind in a very simple sort of way. I'm going to do a quick exercise here, though. I also have a simple mind, so my mind is easily blown. What is the most important issue currently facing organizational leaders? Is it A, B, C, or D? Everyone, I want you to get that in your brain. And I want you to pick, if you're an A, you're a 1. I should have just put up 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next time. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4, A, B, C, and D. Get it in your mind right now. Which one is the most important issue? All right? You got it in your brain? All right. On the count of 3, we're going to put your number up in the air. Ready? 1, 2, 3, put your number up. All right, look around the room. How many people are agreeing with you? All right, let's look at it a different way. Let's parse it out. Let's do a data dashboard. The 1s, put your hand up. The 2s, put your hand up. The 2, put your hand up, I mean. The 3s, put your hand up. The 4, put your hand up. Wait, I took a guess. I said the 4. Did you hear that? Just guessing there was only one left. All right. So you know what I did there? I actually constructed, there's a couple cool things I did. So one is that we got this changing mindsets piece. So that was fast, right? There's some positives. That was fast. It was super simple, what I did right there. And it was real cheap. That was the cheapest live poll interaction that you've ever experienced. But you know what? There's some challenges that I actually literally just created polarity in the group. I actually had you disagree with one another, and I had the people that aren't in those groups. You actually are now more dug in than you were a second ago to say, no, actually, there's a reason why I picked the one I picked. And there's a reason why I'm not in that group. And actually, I'm not going to defend that now that I know I'm different than y'all. And I'm in Texas, and I just learned this. Different than y'all, and actually different than all y'all. Thank you.
All you need is a cowboy hat.
The next thing is that what I'm actually trying to do is manufacture your consent. I'm trying to actually limit your choice and give you 4 things and make you believe that those are the 4 things. And once you choose them, now I'm going to force you to do those things. And I'll give you an example. I asked my son when he was 2 and a bit years old, I said, which truck do you like, that black truck or that black truck? And my son said, I like that black truck and that black truck, and Dada, I like that trailer too. Because he was not going to be pigeonholed manufactured consent. I don't know what the question is, but I'm not choosing one. I don't like that fact that you're trying to make me pick one over the other. I picked those 2 and a third one just to widen my options. That's what it feels like when you're sending out a survey saying, should we do one of these 3 things or one of these 4 things? So we kind of know that, right? But the other thing that I want to talk about is that also is kind of reinforcing old pathways. You're asking people, what do you already think? Not what are you learning or what could you think. You're saying, what do you already think? You're kind of saying peace sign and okay sign. You're just actually saying, you're not trying to actually get them to adopt something new. You're just trying to say, what do you think right now? Okay? I'm going to go to another piece. The second clue is that we all sort of know there's a limitation there, so we still try it, and it still kind of drives people crazy, and most people actually still hate taking surveys yourself, yet you probably administer them to other people. That said, there's another way to do this. There's an open-ended question. And so I'm going to do this just by way of example. We're going to have a quick conversation. I promise it's only going to be about 2 minutes long, but at your tabletop, please just have this quick conversation. I'm not talking a 10-minute deep discussion. I just want you to have a 2-minute conversation around the table. What are some of the most important issues currently facing you as organizational leaders? Go for it. And let me get 2 brave souls. 2 brave souls to speak on behalf of their table and perhaps on behalf of the whole group. Yep. Thank you very much. Hiring and retaining top talent. Who else is a brave soul? Actually, round of applause. Anybody who's a brave soul deserves a round of applause. Another brave soul. What did you talk about at your table? Yep.
Leadership and prioritization.
Leadership and prioritization. Round of applause for that person, please. And one more. Let's do one more.
A slightly brave soul.
A slightly, the third bravest. Communication happened right here. Okay, you get a small round of applause. Thank you very much. All right. So you guys do this sort of thing. You have groups, group meetings, town halls, focus groups, whatever you want to call it, discussions with folks. So there's some positives, is that it's interactive, right? Especially after the people who found the bar down the street last night. It's good to get you all talking to make sure you're shaking off the cobwebs. Second of all, it's human interaction. That's a good thing. With everything that we're doing right now with digital automation, I'm a big believer in human interaction. The third thing is that it's open-ended, right? You didn't have to say any of the 4 things that I put up on the screen. You were allowed to say anything under God's green earth that you wanted to say. So that's a good thing. Allow people to say what they think. However, there's a few problems here. Back up the clock, I was actually a facilitator and a consultant that did a lot of town hall meetings, and I was trying to invent ways to hear from everybody, and that's actually when I got introduced with somebody who's doing this in technology. 8 years ago, I'm not a technologist, I'm a CEO of a technology company, but I'm actually almost a Luddite. I actually was doing the face-to-face interaction a lot, but I found some challenges. One is it's an extrovert bias, massively. I only know that because of the introverts that get pissed off at me regularly. It's extrovert bias, and the person is going to dominate the table. You know that at every group, and every introvert actually knows that conversation went whatever the way the extrovert took it. It just happens at every town hall meeting. This one's more interesting, though, and I'm going to assert that many of you are doing this ad populum. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Waiter walks up to you and says, "Hey, would you like to drink?" And people say, "You know what I like to drink? I'll have beer." Beer. Yeah, sure. Beer. Yep. And someone says, "You know what? I'm outside. It's sunny. I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm going to have a margarita." And someone goes, "Ooh, that's good. Actually, can I change my drink, please? Margarita. That sounds good. Margarita. Oh, yeah, margarita. Round of margaritas, please." Right? Except the survey methodology, or after you do a meeting like this, you get people to write it out. This is what I used to do. You write it out, and then you count it up. And frequency equals importance. I heard it more often. It must be, therefore, more important. We just did this listening tour, and I heard this from 50 people, and it must be important. But the truth is, when you have a meeting, and you're just like, "What do you guys all think?" Everyone says, "Oh, I think this." Someone says, "What about this?" Everyone goes, "Oh, yeah, that's really good." And you immediately empathize and adopt their thinking, right? But in the way that we're actually gathering feedback, we don't do that. We count. We say, "Well, you said it that many times, and then we build beautiful charts and papers that say, "We heard this 53 times. It's very, very important." It may or may not be, actually. In our work, we actually see no correlation between frequency and importance. That's not to say that something that's said frequently isn't important. Often it is. But often it really isn't. Often it was just the first thought, best thought, said by the most people, just happens to be non-interesting or interesting. I'm going to put a third thing up here. Finally, I'm not sure if you, drama multiplies by constraint. And what I mean by that is that if you're basically, this is your one chance, we're about to change something on you, we're going to have a quick conversation, and this is one chance you have, and we're going to bring in the VP, and they're going to listen to you on this topic, and this is one opportunity you have. It is half an hour long in order to say what you're going to think. It'll turn into one of these sessions. And here's the problem I have with that, and if you talk about like the president coming and having a town hall meeting in a town, that's when the crazies come out, because they get so dramatic because they're so constrained they have to say the strongest possible thing in the shortest amount of time. So actually, the more constrained the time is for someone to say something, the more people get totally fearless and they just jump up and they say the worst possible thing that's non-helpful and ends up taking things off. I used to run these meetings. Historical societies. Oh my God. Okay. The more you constrain people, the more dramatic it gets. But actually, I'm going to do something else. And so I am the founder of a technology company, but I want to show it to you. Some people actually participated in this. And I'm not actually asserting that this is the end of the world's problems, but I want to actually try this out. Many of you have, but if you have before, you're going to get a chance to actually rate some more thoughts, because everyone's going to participate right now, hopefully on your own data network, but if not, let's just make the Wi-Fi fall over. So what I want you to do is to go on your laptop or your phone and just go here for a second, and thoughtexchange.com/join. Type in that 9-digit code. Don't put the dashes in. I apologize, that's getting fixed on the page right now. Just fire in that 9-digit code. And then what I'd like you to do is go in and enter a thought or two. If you already participated, some of you did, thank you very much already. Go in and maybe enter a new thought, and then take some time and consider maybe between 10 and 30. We'll give you a range. You see a little meter on the top, 10 thoughts and 30 thoughts, and rate them by how much you agree. Give a thought a 5-star rating if you're in wholehearted support of that thought. Give a thought a 1-star rating if you don't like it at all. And now I'm going to point out one thing. So a long time ago, and many of you have, well, you're clever folks, and there's lots of engineers in the room, and I've been set straight by many engineers. So what I would do in the past as a raging extrovert is that we're doing a silent activity right now, and I'm used to getting feedback via the town hall format. And so I would literally talk through the entire activity, and more so I'd put music on because I was so uncomfortable in the silence that I couldn't handle it. And the introverts are like, shut the hell up, please. And let me think for 5 minutes, and that's what I'm going to do. I apologize to the extroverts in the room. We're just going to have to sit in silence for the next 4 or 5 minutes. So we got 84 thoughts that were rated 1,406 times altogether. And we're able to learn a fair bit about you here. But most interestingly, all I want you to do right now is to actually find a partner sitting beside you, and you're going to answer a very simple question. And then we're going to get to a more interesting spot in just a moment, which is look through the top 10 thoughts, maybe top 15 as a group, and just have a 1-minute conversation with your partner that says, what's interesting about what came up to the top here? Not about the product or the process. What's interesting about the content, about what came up to the top? All right. I'm going to bring you back in here. All right. That's good. Increasingly hard to make you be quiet, which is a good sign. Anyone want to have just a quick same thing, share out what's something you talked about? What did you see at the top there? Brave soul.
I'll have something to do with people, not robots and processes and stuff like that. How do you manage people?
That's right. How do you manage people? Yeah.
It's not just the top 10% top talent, it's like everyone out there is executing. How do you get them to?
Fantastic. That's great. Yep.
And we noticed that, this kind of polling, if you do a 3 or 4, 3 or 4, and so you say, oh, this one's really good, you give it a 5. This one makes more sense to give it a 2, but everything's like a 3 or 4.
Yep, that's interesting. Yep, for sure. And actually, if enough people do that, you can learn some interesting things, which I'm about to show you. Anyone else? Let's do one more comment. Yep.
I was surprised to see that, we were surprised to see that, on the top 10, there was, that most of us focused on process.
Yeah.
I thought it was the other way around.
Right.
We can't be playing people, right, rather than process people.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, where does process and people overlap? That's a real interesting thing. And so actually what I want to show you something. I only have a few minutes left, but I want to show you something. I want to see if we can get at another interesting insight. So I'm just going to show you a pretty quick visualization of what just happened here, because you guys talk about process and people, and there's an intersection that I'm highly interested in. It's the intersection of process and people. And this, anyone want to hazard to guess? Now you have to be super brave. You want to hazard to guess what's happening right now?
The neural pathways of our conversation.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, product. Yeah, egregious product demo. Both correct. Any others? What's happening in that? Yeah, so actually it's mostly just pretty spaghetti, but it's trying to drive home a point here is that you shared your thoughts, and as you shared your thoughts, actually, your thoughts were actually rated and considered by everybody all around the room. What you'll notice is as this goes through, every thought, these are little people, and these are people rating thoughts, and you're actually doing a heck of a good job of rating those thoughts, and we're actually starting to see some order from this totally unstructured thing, what's coming up to the top from this group, right? But here's something that's even more interesting. So basically, one thing to know is that your thought got out there and got considered and rated by people. That's kind of cool, right? The process is pretty fair. It's actually a lot fairer than a round table town hall meeting where an introvert might have sat quietly or you might have got heard by 2 or 3 people, and then the consultant says, I think we've heard from everybody today, and I'm going to take this and put it into a report. I'm a recovering consultant. I'm also going to show you this. This is just interesting to know, is that as people rate thoughts in different ways. It's fascinating. What happens is that actually there's a group of people, group A took these two thoughts, time, lack thereof, anything more than too far is too much, demanding, unrealistic, too much to do, so little time. A group of people rated that thought real high. Group A, a 4.4 star average. Group B, 1.5 star average. Time's mine, I can deal with it, it's fine. You could, really low star average, right? What's important about that is that there's lots of issues in anything. It's not just what comes to the top, it's where you agree and where you don't. However, there are thoughts that both sides, so regardless, so imagine me trying to do a process change management piece saying, hey, listen, some of you feel like you're pressed for time, some of you feel like you're not. Let's not focus on that right now. What I want to talk about is the fact that we really need to manage through this change and attract and retain the right talent, whether we have the time to or not, because these are thoughts that both sides rated really high. Right? However, I'm just going to let that part sink in right now, is that I'm able to actually see the thoughts that you all are rating high, especially when you disagree on particular thoughts. And there's actually a whole list of thoughts that this group, you all seem nice to each other, but you're not. You don't agree very well. See, there's lots of thoughts you don't agree on, but actually in each of these topic areas, I can find common ground in between you. But I'm going to leave you with a thought here as I wrap up, perfectly on time. There's some positives there, is that was pretty inclusive. That was a fair process, I think, or a fairer process, in that everyone could participate, and it was pretty quick. Those are some positives. There are some challenges. It's pretty vulnerable if you're trying to lead change to get everyone to give their open-ended thought and actually listen to what comes up to the top. There's also, it requires a bit of a culture change, even those of you that are like, background, technology. I really hate sharing using technology. And you need to blend technology with face-to-face, folks. I really believe that in my heart. If you don't do that, if you just say I made a change because of something I did with technology, you're going to lose people. You work in people businesses, and it's augmented by technology. All right. Finally, this is what we're talking about in the middle of this. I couldn't have staged this. There's no way that I could have actually made this slide up, yet you're all talking about it, is that you know this. People are actually more likely to accept a worse decision with a better process. If you can show a fair process that everyone had the chance to share their thinking, and that it doesn't matter if you thought exchange or you just show a process by which you did your very best to hear from everybody, they're actually more likely to accept a worse decision because they had a better process around it. And you can imagine, put that in the simplest form, which is that if you decide to go for dinner with a group of people, if someone just says, I know the greatest place, we're going there, trust me, you would actually get slightly more pissed off. Yeah, wait a sec, let's hear from everybody. And then if everyone decides to go to a worse place, you'd be like, well, actually I would have preferred to go there, but this seems fairer. You're actually going to be happier eating a crappier dinner. Isn't that fascinating? And the final sentiment I'll just leave you with is that this whole thing right now that you're trying to run with, learning and change, they're hard. They're a really hard thing. But as you do this, I just want you to keep in mind that you're wired for it. That actually we have the neurons to actually, the people want to change, organizations want to grow and develop. As humans, we want to keep moving forward. We're actually wired to do that. So just the people that are just like, no, sir, just keep working at it. Thank you very much. That's it.